Often when we talk about FortiGate, we only think of it as a firewall, meaning we only use it to filter the traffic that enters or leaves the network. We forget that the FortiGate is also a router, which means that we can use it to advertise the networks dynamically, whether are connected networks, whether are remote networks between firewalls or between routers. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a use case where we're going to enable dynamic routing on a FortiGate firewall. More precisely, I'm going to show you how to enable BGP, the border gateway protocol, on a FortiGate firewall. Okay, this is the topology that I'll be using, and if you want, you can get it for free. I'm going to share the link in the video description so that you can download directly on my platform. Okay, so this topology might look like too complex with a lot of devices on it, but it's actually is going to be very simple and straightforward. I'm just going to focus on a couple of devices here. So we have like two sites here. Let's call this the headquarter. So headquarter, let's consider to be this side on the left, and we have the branch side that's going to be here on the left. Okay, so that's going to be branch, and here in the middle we have the service provider or the ISP network with these two routers. So on the headquarter we have this FortiGate firewall, and it has the local network 10.0.1.0/24, and the firewall is the default gateway with the IP address .254, and it has two links towards these two service providers, and we're going to use private links, so that's why I'll be using private addresses. So that's going to be 10.10.1.0, and here on the FortiGate firewall the IP address will be probably around .88 on these two links. And here on the service provider side, between the service provider and the branch, I also have the address space 10.10.103 and the 10.10.104. So for connectivity, I have already configured the IP address on all of these devices, so we're just going to focus on how to enable BGP on this scenario. So for BGP, we're going to use this document from Fortinet. So this is going to be how to configure a basic BGP topology. So we're not going to copy exactly this scenario, but I'm just going to use the idea, like a couple of addresses on how to enable BGP. And I'm going also to share this in the video description in case you want to follow that example as well. Okay, so this is essentially what we have. So we have this firewall that's going to act as the FGT or FortiGate A, and it's going to be assigned the ASN 64511. Now, if you don't know what is ASN stands for Autonomous System Number. And if you have some background on networking, then that should be pretty straightforward for you. Now, if you're somewhat new to networking, just take it as it is just a number that is going to identify a specific site, a specific location, which means that we're going to have a different ASN for the service provider, and that's going to be the 64512. Let me clear this. So we're going to use 64511 for site A or headquarter. For the ISP, we're going to use the ASN 64512, and for branch side we're going to use the same ASN 64511. Now let's validate the connectivity between some of these devices. So if we go to Fortigate, so this is the IP address I'm using. So this is the LAN 10.01.254, and we have the two WAN links 10.10.101.86 and 10.10.102.86. So now let me bring the service provider one router just to confirm that we have connectivity. So if I ping 10 on 10.101, that should be 86. 10.10.101.86, that should work. And if I ping probably 87, that should be 103.88. And let me clear this. Okay, so it means that this ISP router is able to reach the FortiGate firewall in this branch router. Okay, so let's suppose that we want to allow reachability between these two networks, the 10.0.1.0 on the headquarter and the 10.0.2 on the remote side. So I wouldn't call it the traditional way, but the simple way to do it would be to use static routes. Okay, so let's go, for example, on Fortigate firewall, and we would go to static routes, and here we're going to add a static route. So we're going to use WAN port 3, and my default gateway is going to be 10.10.101, and probably that's going to be 84. Just want to make sure that I'm using the correct IP address. So show IP interface brief. So that's going to be 10.10.101.84. Okay, I'm going to add these, and so I'm going to add the policy route, because this is a firewall, we have to allow or permits what we want to allow pass through this firewall. So we're going to create a new rule, and let's just call permit LAN to WAN 1, and the incoming interface should be LAN, and the outgoing interface, that's going to be WAN. And the source, we're just going to select O, destination is going to be O, and service, we're just going to enable all services. We want to disable net. Okay, we want to keep it very simple, and we want to add this rule. Now this is basic routing. Okay, so we just add a default route on this firewall pointing to this ISP or this SP router. Now if we try to send any reachability, any ping from this, let's suppose this web server to this router or to this PC, it won't work, because we have to allow end-to-end connectivity across all of these let's suppose these routers or firewalls. So we added a default route on Fortigate firewall. So now let's do the same on these routes branch too. So let's check my default route. Okay, I don't have a default route, so let's set these. So that's going to be 10.103. No, that's going to be 10.10.103, and that should be 10. Yeah, I believe that's okay. And so let's just double check 10.10.103.804, and it's working. Now I have these PCs set the default gateway to be the firewall and the router. So let me bring the web server. So plug into this PC, and we bring the terminal, and let me first confirm that I can reach my default gateway. I can. So what about 10.02, and I believe that's 16. Yeah, that's 16, but it's not working. Well, because this SP router doesn't know about these two remote networks. So we have to add these two networks on this SP router. So let's say that 10.0.1.0.24 is reachable via 10.10.101. That should be 86. And we want to add another one, 10.0.2.0 is reachable via 10.10.1.03. That should be 88. Now let's go back to web server, and we can see that now it's working. So you can see that we have to do all of these steps, like adding the route on the firewall, and also on the remote router, and also we have to guarantee that the SP or the ISP router knows how to route or to reach those remote destinations. Now on a production environment, we don't want to do all of these steps manually. We want to be able to do it dynamically. So we want the routers and the firewalls be able to exchange those routers dynamically, and that's why we're going to use BGP. So I'm going to cancel this and remove all of these changes that I apply. So I'm going to remove the default route on this one as well, and let's do the same on branch 2. Okay, want to remove this, and probably also on the Fortigate firewall. So let's go to network, state routes, and we want to remove this default route. Okay, so we just removed that, and if I try to send another ICMP, that should fail. Okay, so it's not working because we don't have end-to-end connectivity. Okay, so let's start by configuring BGP between the service provider router and the branch router. So if we go to SP, we should start configuring like this. So router BGP 64512, that's the ASN. Just going to set the router ID, and I believe that this router, I'm just going to use this number 5555 just because. And because we want to establish a BGP peering with this route branch 2, we're going to use the command, and let me bring this here. So we're going to set neighbor to be 10.10.103, and that should be 88, and the remote AS is going to be 64.512, just like you have here in this topology. So that's going to be the same AS on the branch as in the headquarter. So back to SP. So this is done. So now let me bring the branch router. So we're going to use router BGP 64511. Now the BGP router ID, in my case, this is going to be 333. Okay, and the neighbor is going to be 10.10.103, and that should be 84. Remote AS is going to be 64.512. Now, after a couple of seconds, we should see the peering being established between these two routers. So this shouldn't take long, and we can see that the BGP adjacency is up. So let's just double confirm that by running the command do show BGP summary, and let me expand this a little bit. So we should see that we have neighborship with this router 10.10.103.84, but no prefix are being advertised. So now let's advertise this network, the 10.02 network, into BGP. So we're going to use the command 10.10 network 10.02 0 and mask 255.255.255.0. And if we confirm that do show BGP, we should see that we are injecting this prefix into BGP, and we should see the same prefix on the ISP router. So if we run the same command do show BGP, and we can see that we have this prefix being advertised by the branch 2 router, and this is the ASN that is advertising this prefix. So we have completed the BGP adjacency between SP and the route branch. So now we have to do the same between the SP router and the Fortigate firewall. So back to SP. Now we're going to add a neighbor that's going to be 10.10.101. That should be 86, and the remote AS is going to be 64.511. Now we're not going to see any message yet because we haven't configured on the Fortigate firewall. Now let's go to Fortigate firewall, and we have to go to BGP, and we're going to set the local AS to be 64.511. The router ID, which one am I going to use? That's going to be 12.12.12. So this is just like an ID for this router to make it unique on the BGP communication. So the neighbors, that's going to be 10.10.101, and that should be 84. Remote AS is going to be 64.512. We want to use the interface WAN1, and that should be enough. So just going to confirm that, and that we should see the JCC or the peering coming up anytime soon. So meanwhile, let's advertise also the local network on this firewall, and that should be 10.0.10/24. Okay, so let's apply this. Okay, so it's gonna give a couple of seconds, and we can see that now we have one path available. So let's take a look at this, and we can see that we have a neighbor IP that's going to be the SP router, So that's local IP, remote AS, and we can see the state established. Okay, so everything looks okay so far. Now we can see if we received any routes, and we have 1001, but we only see connected routes. Okay, so looks like something is missing. Okay, let's go to SP router and just confirm that we have the adjacency up, and we can confirm that it is up. Okay, we can see that it's up for both neighbors, either the Fortigate firewall or the Cisco router, and we receive each router is advertising the prefixes. Okay, let's check the BGP table. So if we run the command do show BGP, we can see that we have both prefixes being advertised, and we can also check them on BGP routing table. So do show IP route BGP. Okay, so it looks like everything is normal. Now let's see if branch 2 is at least receiving this, and looks like it's not working at all. Now if you're not familiar with network connectivity, more precisely BGP, you might assume or think that probably there is something missing on the Fortigate firewall, like adding a rule to allow this BGP advertisement to work, but actually that's not the case. You see, BGP by default has a loop prevention mechanism that says the following: if I receive a prefix and I see my own ASN number on it, I'm going to discard that prefix because it might mean that I'm actually the one advertising that prefix, or it might be being advertised by another router that is one of my neighbors. So that's essentially what is happening here. That's why we can see the prefix 1001 coming from the same AS, in this case from Fortigate firewall and also from the Cisco router. That's why I wanted to use these two different devices just to show that it's not a problem related with the router or the firewall, but it's actually something related with the BGP. Okay, so now how do we fix this issue? Well, there are two ways to solve this, and we're going to use these two options in different devices. So the first one is going to be on the ISP router. So here on the ISP router, we're going to use the following command. So between the SP router and the branch 2 router, we're going to use the command 103, and that should be 88 AS override. Okay, so we're going to use this command and we're going to update BGP policies. So soft out, and so now if we go to branch 2 and we run the same command again, now we're going to see the 1001 prefix being advertised from the SP router. And look at this, we don't see the AS number as being 64511. We see that it was advertised actually from the SP environment, the 64512. And let's confirm if we have this in our BGP routing table. So to show IP route BGP, and yet we can see it in our BGP table, but we haven't completed this process or this task yet. Recall that we have to enable this on both directions. So the other way to solve this issue is to apply a command on the receiving router, meaning on the firewall in this case. So let's go to Fortigate firewall. On network, let's go to BGP, and here we want to select the neighbor and we want to edit, and let's go to what is this option, allow AS in, and we want to enable one, and we're going to click OK and apply this change. And now we should be able to see this prefix from the remote side being advertised to this Fortigate firewall. Now if we go to two paths, now we can see that we have the 1001, that's the one we are advertising, and we just received this one from our peers. So we can see that it says BGP paths, and if we go to state and dynamic, we should see the same information, meaning that we are receiving the 10020 prefix coming from the SP router. Okay, so Does it mean that we have connectivity? Okay, let's confirm this. So let's go back to our web server, connect on this one, and let's run the same command, and it's running, which means that we were able to dynamically advertise the LAN networks between the Fortigate router and the Cisco router just by using BGP. Now, there's a lot more that we can do with BGP. For instance, we can manipulate or apply some policies that will influence the way we want the traffic to go. For instance, we could say that we want the network 1001 to take this path, but then we want the 1002 network to take this path. So there is a lot that we can do with BGP, and I'm going to leave this as a homework, as a challenge for you to try based on what I have covered so far on how to establish the BGP adjacency on the Fortigate firewall and as well on the Cisco router. So if you took value from this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next one.